Hello, Music Multiverse listeners, and welcome to Panel's Favorite Show. This is a three-part series regarding debut albums, and tonight is part two. We had part one, which was bands, and tonight, part two, female solo albums. And the females are not represented well tonight. Stuff happens, I guess, right? But they will be. Sue did send me her list. She's not feeling well. We got people on vacation, all kinds of things. So we want to do this. There are plenty of fabulous female records. We'll find out what myself and Mr. Crichton's favorites are, and Sue's I'll read off as well. So this may or may not be critical darlings. These are the ones that we love, right? It's how they moved us, the impressions they left us at the time. That they leave a time signature on us for sure. There are albums definitely that we played the hell out of. All right. So the rules here, just in case you're joining us and haven't seen part one, hey, no EP. All right, no EP. Can't be done after the fact where you have a solo album that is released, but it's not actually the debut, but it's the first time it's actually debuted. Then they go back and re-release the debut. No, that doesn't work. That's a cheat. And then of course we got this whole thing like the band name, like Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats. Is that a band or is that Nathaniel Rateliff? So I'm sure, like, Santana, that's not a band, that's Santana. But is it a band? It's a band. It's a band. But is Santana the draw? Yeah, probably.
Oh, yeah.
So part three in 2 weeks. That'll be male solo albums, and we'll just have all the females come back for the panelists, and the males won't come. That way, it's even Steven. I don't know. So we'll finish up with there it is. The spider's always attacking me. We'll be back after that on Of Sound Minds to discuss the most important debut albums in history. It'll be interesting to see if debut albums in history favorites match your panelists' favorites. I would think sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, So the debut, it's a critical thing for the band, their pride, their joy, that moment, their hard work, and is it going to pay off, right? And so many recording techniques, budget theories, all kinds of craziness happens. Some things go right, some things go wrong, and no one hears it because of the rampant plague, maybe, that takes over the world. There's a war, or worse, an album that shakes the very foundation of the music multiverse, just takes over everything, and no one heard any other record that year. That's happened. So thanks to our channel, we kind of go a little bit beyond all that. And of course, I know that my panelists do too. I'm pretty sure too that the birthday girl from today is probably going to be mentioned. If you don't know who that is, that's a little spoiler alert, and it's not Dua Lipa. But before we get into the panelists' choices, just a reminder, like what we're doing, hit that like button. Please get into the comments. We'd love to hear what your five were. I love to be shocked where I go, oh my God, I forgot about that record. But I don't get that if I don't get any comments. If you're upset with us, send the comments. I did get yelled at by Jonas Elborg for putting his name after Buckethead. So believe me, they're out there listening, even the people that are part of the trade. So, and of course, subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, you'll miss out. Of course, it's free. The famous Jeff Crichton, a record-pushing sales guy and ocean background den aficionado, is on tonight with me. Let's kick this off with you because you don't have to battle any other Jeffs today.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
What's your number five?
Well, as I was going through my list, I thought, like, okay, why not? It'll be my most modern album on the list. So it's Belladonna by Stevie Nicks. So, she had so much material. She was on a writing bridge, during Fleetwood Mac's, the height of their career, right? Around, Tusk was a double album. It probably could have been 3 or 4 with all the songs that she and Lindsay and Stevie or Christine had. So she decided to do this solo record and chock full of hits and probably her best solo album for me anyway. Stop Dragging My Heart Around. is a classic, right? And worth the price of the album alone. Her singing with Petty and the Heartbreakers, it's a gem. So that's my number 5.
Yeah, great record. On my list of 25 or so that I had, she just missed the top 5 only because I did mine based on, did I play the hell out of the record? I mean, I did, but I started to say, can I name all the songs on there? And I couldn't come up with a couple. But she still has one of the purest voices in female rock history.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'll give you Sue's number 5 here. And so she is at number 5. She has Tidal by Fiona Apple. It was released in 1996. She can be a bit dark and angsty, so not for everyone, but she made it work. Talented lyricist and pianist. And then she says, well, maybe she should be tied with Tori Amos' Little Earthquakes. And that is the birthday girl from today, by the way. Released in 1992, similar to Fiona, sort of an acquired taste, another talented lyricist and pianist. And that record, to me, if I'm saying which one gets tossed out to make it in, you'll find on my list the person who gets tossed out. So that was her pick. So my number 5 is probably going to be like a lot of people going, they're going to cringe. I don't know why, but when I played the hell out of this record, there was just something about it. It was happy. It was. And who do we have to thank? We got Don Henley to thank for it, and Michael Jackson to thank for it, and that's Sheryl Crow's Tuesday Night Music Club, where both of those people said you should sing your own shit and stop singing with me, and she did, and all I want to do is play the record over and over and over again. I just did, and when I go back to it, it's still an enjoyable music writing experience. Did it get better for her? Yes, a little bit. Globe sessions were pretty good. But the last few have been, she covered Peter Gabriel. No. So, my number 5, Sheryl Crow's Tuesday Night Music Club. Boy, I don't even know the year, but it was a while back. Anyway, back to you.
Okay. Number 4. I'm actually going to swap out 3 and 4.
I like it. I like it. Changing it. You got to.
Yeah. Now, number 4 is the self-titled album from Diana Ross.
Okay.
Her first record that she made after she left the Supremes. It was produced by Nicholas Ashford and Valerie Simpson, who produced and wrote a lot of that album. And it's a great record. I mean, it was, here she was on her own, not under the tutelage or the iron fist of the label. And she had a couple big hits off that album. Reach Out and Touch Somebody's Hand and Ain't No Mountain High Enough, or classics that, what is she, 80 now?
Yeah, I gotta be.
If she still goes out on tours, then those songs are played, but they're classic songs from a classic voice. And in her career, since she left the Supremes, has been up and down, but it was a great record.
Yeah, it's one of those that if she goes to disco, I'm out.
Yeah.
The soul, I'm there.
Yeah.
The soul, that's, yeah, definitely. So, okay. Sue's number 4. This isn't a surprise I figured it would be on here, is 1983's Cyndi Lauper. She's So Unusual. It's by Portrait Records, which that surprises me. That's top 5 singles. There were 4 on that record. And that's, when She's So Unusual, that's an unusual vocal in the world at that time. She broke the mold of the typical singer with her quirkiness, that kind of thing. So that's a good choice. She was on my list too. I know I played the hell out of that cassette as well. But all right, so that was hers. Oh, mine. Okay, so you know me, there's always one from across the bridge.
Yeah.
So I had there were 4 or 5 of them that were on the list. Oh, there's Mrs. Crichton. How are you?
Oh, geez, I don't know if I'm a thing. I'm good. How embarrassing is that? I'm good and I'm tired. Well, how are you? Nice to see you.
A cameo.
Cameo appearance. Hey, females were now represented. Yay!
Yeah,
See how it worked out?
There you go.
Not to be undone. So I had several I was playing, going up and down with, but this debut from another pianist who kind of has the same vibe in a little bit of Tori would be Sarah Celine and her album Blue Parade. It's delivery that we hadn't heard in a while. She can be a female vocalist that's playing on a male side of the discussion. A beautiful war of words that happens. She has a sting-like quality in her songwriting, which isn't easy to do. I saw her in a church in Scarborough where she has a song off this record called "Playing Cards with Judas," and she said, "I probably shouldn't be playing this song in this position right now." And there's also Elliot. It's a very popular song. Her music's been used in television off of this, but this is an album that features the finger cymbal, and not too many, finger cymbals are not as popular as cowbell, my friend. So,
no, not at all.
So that's my quirky number 4. Although her albums, they get intensely better. She has an orchestra voice, an operatic tone too. She can. She's recently, if you get a chance to see her right now, she's doing Joni Mitchell song nights with an orchestra and everything. So those are fantastic.
Cool.
Back to you for number 3.
The legendary, the wonderful, the awesome. She's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The late great Laura Nyro.
Oh yes.
With her album More Than a New Discovery. It was released in February of '67. The debut album, I mean, she was known as a songwriter, and when she made her own, people said, like, wow, her voice is really good too. But on that album, she does, they're all originals, but she does Stony End, which Barbra Streisand covered. Wedding Bell Blues that the Fifth Dimension covered.
Okay.
And When I Die, which was a hit for Blood, Sweat, and Tears in '69. So, and every single one of her albums, I mean, like her second album, she did Eli and the 13th Confession with Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells, and that's a fantastic record too. But I'm glad she got her due when the Hall recognized her, because the Hall does not recognize so many artists. For them to recognize her was a mini step in the right direction, because they're still missing the boat on so many other artists that should be in there.
Yeah, I will say that this happens because she was an artist's artist.
Yeah.
Elton John, all those people, they were always blown away by her. And her songwriting was not commonplace. It didn't have a starting, ending. I don't know what the word is, but yeah, it's good. There's no question. She was on my list as well. There's a couple of albums I go between too, and I'm like, wow, geez, there's so much good stuff. And I knew there were covers, but I didn't know who had done any or that. I just knew that.
Yeah, but like those three songs that I mentioned that other artists covered, those are her songs that those artists made hits. So cool.
Yeah, she deserved for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. No question. Yeah. All right. So Sue's number 3 is Barbra Streisand, and her debut album in 1963. No surprise, that's on Columbia Records. This was a worldwide smash. Technically, I'm pretty sure it sold over 1 million copies in that year of like '66. By '66, it was 1 million copies. Mostly it's Broadway standards, but when you've got that voice, here's the phone book. Go ahead. But you could, like, if you're a vocalist like that woman is, you feel it. Some people can sing and it's like, okay, it sounds great, but I don't feel it.
Yeah.
So, I had her on my list. She was farther down, and the reason for that is not a songwriter. I don't know. I just something about that. I
Yeah.
put other people down. Like, no, you got to be a songwriter to be on here. So all right. So I'm gonna go one more out of the normalcy of things. I don't know, but some people might think, yeah, that's a bold pick. I don't know what it is, but Avril Lavigne's "Let Go," that punk, fun. Again, I'm back to this Sheryl Crow thing, just delivered in a punk sense. She owned it. The songs were clever, they were pushy, and beyond what you were expecting from a skater girl. So, and can she play guitar?
Eh.
Maybe like Kiss plays a guitar. But she that was well placed, and she's done different kind of things here and there, and still has that clever, pushy song lyric. But there's been some definite missteps since then. But it's a really fun debut, a good debut. I wanted to have a little bit of fun. When you talk about some of these other people that are on my list, the number one and number two were automatic, that the first people that came to mind. And then I started to filter, like, who did I play a lot of that, or I was surprised by that I played a lot of. That was one I was really surprised that it was her and Aguilera. I don't know why, but I played the hell out of that record. Just the voice, I couldn't believe that little girl was singing like that. That's a soul kind of voice, right? But in a pop sense. Anyway, Ira Levine's "Let Go." I'm back to Mr. Krein for his number two.
Ooh. My number two is so close to number one. They're like so close, but number one stands alone. But number two could stand on its own too. The great Janis Joplin, after she left Big Brother and the Holding Company, and she made 2 records for them. So she made this solo album called "I Got Them Old Cosmic Blues Again, Mama," and it was released like a month after she performed at Woodstock in '69. And it's a fantastic record full of energy and her voice and the musicianship on there. It just screams in your face. It's such a great record. And if you have the chance, listeners out there, I'm telling you right now, I'm getting close to the screen even. If you have not watched her performance at Woodstock, go to YouTube and pull it up, because it's phenomenal. And around the same time, she did the Tom Jones show. Tom Jones used to have a variety show in the late '60s, early '70s. And the two of them performed together on that show.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's great. It's great.
I'll have to look at it.
Yeah. It's so Janis Joplin, and she only, like 2 years later, she, Pearl came out posthumously. She only had 2 solo records. So
yeah, that's probably then when you think of her, I don't know what would have come next. I mean, whew, I'm honestly, I don't know if she'd have survived her own vocal, connection. She would just,
yeah, she gave it all.
Oh, there were some points in that where I'm like, wow, how did she recover enough to sing the next lyric?
I know.
Yeah. An enigma in all of, I'm trying to think, like, Bjork has tones that don't match scaling, but she doesn't sing every note that way or do all that. And
she
there's
just
only
had
a couple.
So much soul, and she would like scream, and then she'd go down gentle, and she was like a once in a lifetime artist. You'll never see again.
Yeah. I mean, Aretha Franklin maybe in that meld in some cases she could.
Yeah, and Aretha had Janis was around for what, 4 years?
4 years.
Yeah.
Is it better to burn out than to fade away?
No,
I don't think so either. I don't think so, unless I don't know if that album was on my list too. For a minute there, I thought Pearl was first. I was like, wait a minute, I couldn't think of the name of the album. I don't know why I couldn't, but I just can't. Yeah, I had to figure. I left it off of my list because I knew it would be on the Grateful Dude's list, and then he couldn't make the show. So I know it was his number one. There's no question about it. I think he's seen her. He's seen her live.
Okay.
on more than one occasion, I believe. So. Sue's number 2 is the one and only Madonna. Madonna's debut. 1983, Sire Records sets Lucky Star, borderline.
Borderline.
Yeah.
Borderline.
Yeah.
I worked that record.
Did you work that record?
I did.
What did you think of that record at the time?
I hate it. You know,
You hated it because
but you know what? It put food on my table there. That's how and I'm still not, a big fan of it, but I've got a platinum record on my wall in the house from that. So
yeah.
So, but yeah,
I liked it to some degree. I wasn't a total pop. I think her albums got better as they went along, and then at a certain point it became a little bit like she got influenced by things that didn't work out for her. You can't be in every genre and do everything. I don't think no dance works out, and a leotard can only go so far. But that album obviously struck a chord with every female on the planet. So my number 2 is Tori Amos, Little Earthquakes. It was mind shattering for me. The way she played the piano, it was like a silky yet obtuse playing of it. She had like this classical rock concept in her head that just, and then I didn't even know about Crucify, the EP that came before it, where she covered Zeppelin and Nirvana. That wasn't even anything that I had experience. So I didn't know where she was coming from. It just came, and to sing one of the songs a cappella about being raped, just a stunning record that had it no hold barred. She held nothing back. I guess my connection to it reminded me a lot of the debut of Phil Collins, Face Value.
Okay.
Of how stripped and how raw and how intense to some degree. That's where I guess I place it in my head. But so Tori Amos's Little Earthquakes, it was 1992. Actually, I think Sheryl Crow was 93 now that I think about it.
Yeah. That sounds
anyway,
about right.
Number 1 for Mr. Cry.
Well, one of my all-time favorite artists ever. And she also happens to be one of my favorite songwriters ever. And so back at the end of 1967, the great Mo Austin signed Joni Mitchell to Reprise Records. And she befriended David Crosby, who was recently fired from the Byrds. And her album, Songs for a Seagull, was her first record, and it's my number 1. And she grew from that record. Only that record's pretty stripped down, but the songs are beautiful. It's the first time she got to record her own songs, especially after some folkies like Judy Collins singing Both Sides Now, and Tom Rush or Tim Hardin singing Urge for Going. That she later recorded those songs on her next album after that. But this record exposes the world to her. We all know she's been one of the most revered artists of all time.
Yeah.
And I was blessed and lucky. I worked Madonna's first record, second record, and all the way. I probably worked Madonna's first 15 or 16 albums. Joni, I got to work some middle, her albums in the 80s and 90s. And I was blessed and joyful to be able to work those. But yeah, that's Songs for a Seagull by Joni. That's my number 1.
When you were you immediately introduced to that at that point, or did something come to you that it was later?
From her?
Oh, that album.
Oh yeah, because when that record first came out, I was young. I was like super young, so it was maybe a couple of years later.
Okay. Yeah, I want to put a context to that because that sometimes records don't hit us till later. Now I'm looking at mine and they all hit me at the time that they came out because of that. But Stevie Nicks didn't hit me till later
Right.
because I didn't have any context. And having Whitney, not Whitney Houston, yeah, no, but Joni Mitchell, that would have been one that I went back to. Is it?
Yeah, I definitely
That
went
is not my
back.
favorite.
Yeah, I went back after I think my first exposure to her was Ladies of the Canyon, that record.
Okay.
So I heard that and I thought like, okay. Her version of Woodstock's on that record, the song she wrote. And then I went back and I listened to Clouds, her second album, and Both Sides Now is on that album. And then I went back to the first album. So
Okay, so that was a little bit of a journey, but not that big. Not that
well,
big a
right,
journey.
yeah. But it's a great introduction to her, and because I love her so much, that's my number one.
Yeah. I had a feeling, but you never know. Uh, Sue's number one, Whitney Houston, 1985. That's three number one singles. It's in the U.S. the greatest love of all. It's Saving All My Love for You, and How Will I Know? Of course, the little faster, non-ballady work. But that's a powerhouse voice that you know. It just was natural to hear it. I don't think she was straining anything to make anything happen.
No,
It just did, and we all know where that went from there. She made somebody's song like one of the greatest songs of all time. Dolly Parton's
I will
I
always
will
love you.
yeah. I mean, I don't think if I was Dolly, I would have said, yeah, go ahead. I will never be singing it again. That's for sure. I'm done. You got this. It's yours now. Thank you.
That
But
song
yeah,
made
it's a
Dolly
good.
a lot of money.
That's right. Just cash it in, right?
Mhm.
So did you work that record?
No,
No, I was trying to. Did she say what album it was on? Well, no, she didn't.
yeah, that was the great Clive Davis signed her. She
That's
was
yeah, it's Clive Davis. There's a if you look at some of these in the female arena, you're gonna find Clive's name on a lot. I would
oh
think
yeah,
that's
yep.
influential. But sometimes you stay too long and you find yourself the villain. He stayed too long. He ruined some careers too while he was at it.
Yeah.
That people didn't get. You got to get out of your wheelhouse. My number one, when we knew we were going to do this, I knew what album it was going to be. I was the single that let it off tremendous. Well, it was on radio, but for me, it didn't leave as strong as an impression as the rest of the album did. It's a start to finish. It is a folk position on an environment, on a social status, a social position that unlike any other, and I still think it is the greatest female debut of all time, and that is Tracy Chapman.
Mm.
The record is, you feel the hurt, you feel the
Yep.
segregation, you feel every inch of it. It's it's like a Raymond Carver novel. It's straight and to the point. They don't need to play on words. Nothing necessary. Another a cappella album that has a song that's a cappella on it. It's a haunting vocal to some degree,
Yeah.
because of how it's written. But oh my God, I played that album. I still do to this day. Um, I don't think any other record that came after was quite
No,
the same.
no.
But
It's a
she
shame.
did have it's a different kind of blues album. It's not what you're used to. It's blues, but it's not blues. It's hard to explain. If you have never heard that album, I know you've heard shit. I know you've all heard Fast Car, especially that shitty ass country version. Oh my God, it's an insult. I know she makes money off of it, but dear Lord, it's awful. I can't listen to it. It has no meaning whatsoever. It's so
That
heartless.
brought her. At least brought her back to some popularity, though.
Yeah, I just it's sad that things like that have to happen to bring them back to popularity. Bring yourself back like Peter Gabriel does. Just make a freaking fantastic record, right?
Who was that? Was that Jelly Roll that did it with her?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I cannot. It kills me. It pains me. The other one that does that is the people that covered Tom Cochran's "Life Is a Highway." Was that Rascal Flat? Flat is the word.
Yeah.
Just don't do that. But yeah, that was my number one. That's an amazing record. I mean, I just can't say. It's emotional.
Sure
I love.
Yeah.
So we got time for honorable mentions there. Do you have a couple, or do you have just a huge list?
Yeah, I do. No, I don't have I don't have my normal huge list. I picked well, just a few, just three actually. And three of my favorite female singers. Linda Ronstadt, Silk Purse.
I forgot about that record. Oh,
which her voice is actually that came out like in April 1970. Her voice sounds amazing. The songs aren't the strongest, but her voice sounds great. Bonnie Raitt's self-titled solo album introduced the world to her really good voice. Again, not the greatest songs. I believe she covered Robert Johnson, a couple Sippy Wallace tunes. One of the songs she wrote, which she didn't write a lot of songs. She wasn't known as a songwriter until maybe later in her career. But her song "Thank You," which wound up becoming a standard for her at her shows. So her self-titled record, and Linda's self-titled record, just because their voices are so pure and wonderful, and I was teetering on Emmylou, and I thought, like, well, Pieces of the Sky was her first album, and it's like, well, that's what she classifies as their first album, but she had a solo album on a local label in Baltimore that was released in 1969. I was like, well, okay, well, technically that's her debut album, and then she lingered, playing in clubs and singing with Graham Parsons, and then she kind of waved that album off, just saying no, that's not. Forget that album even came out, because you can't even find that record anymore. Because I guess the small label that was on went belly up, and probably sold 20 copies. So if I go by just her and saying don't even think about that album, then her album "Piece of the Sky" is a classic record.
I'm gonna have to go to that. I don't think I have that one, or I haven't listened to it in a while.
It's a great debut album by her, and again, one of my favorite female artists ever. So, yeah.
I'll since Jeff brought up the idea of the man, that was the first solo record. Why wasn't Alanis Morissette mentioned? I think everybody should know that was not her first album. The first two were they're not the same, and totally off the mark. So anyway,
one of them was Can't Tori Reid, right? Wasn't that? Yeah. Can't Tori Reid?
Yeah, she had her own little band thing or whatever, Can't Tori Reid. Yeah, which got released on a Nowhere Nothing-ish kind of thing.
Yeah.
So Alana Miles debut, I thought that was one I played a lot of. That was super slick and bluesy, southernish, Canadian again. I don't know how Canadians know country, but whatever they do. Southern rock, I should say. I did hit Melissa Etheridge debut. That was a very, very, very good record. I know we've talked about it before, so I kind of left it off on that regard. But Amanda Marshall, in the pop sense, her debut record was very good. That was an unusual voice and a very loud, powerful voice. And then I had to throw in Paula Abdul's "Forever Your Girl." I played that record all the time. I don't know, on a really true pop sense. I had some fun with that one. That was that's still. I looked over at the cassette when we were going through this list, and I'm like, man. So I put it on. I'm like, yeah, it's still, it is what it was at that point in time. But I mean, You've got Joan Osborne's Relish, Jules, Pieces of You, and of course Liz Phair's Exile in Guyville, which on the sonic side of pop, that was a cleverly done album. So
Yeah, I
but
got
wait, hey,
I got
what?
I got Joan Baez's self-titled.
Oh yeah, yeah. It didn't even go.
She's
Yeah, that's other thing. We
iconic.
didn't really go back to the 50s, late and early,
Early
60s.
60s, yeah.
Yeah.
So Joan Baez's first record, that was really good. And there's going to be some surprises with the guys because somebody you'd think, their debut album, no.
No, no. I'm gonna have like a, it's gonna be that's harder. It didn't come right to my head like immediately, you know. If you usually when I think of male, I'll go to Sting right away. But Dream of the Blue Turtles, I don't know. I don't know if that's up there in my list. Yeah, he would
Well,
normally come to mind immediately as a solo artist.
well, Dylan's first self-titled solo album.
No,
Nope,
no,
nope.
probably poorly recorded too. Notorious for poor recording.
Springsteen's Greetings from Asbury Park. Good record, but
yeah. So, listen, what were your female solo debuts? What did we leave behind? What did we miss? Let us know. I'd love to have that moment where I go, oh God, why didn't I put that on there? Or I got to go back and listen to that record. So my thank you to my panelist, Mr. Crichton, our special guest that showed up, Mrs. Crichton, and that she was able to represent the women for a few seconds. And we'll be back doing this in 2 weeks where we deal with the males. We're on the web at beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, of course, articles, videos, podcasts, all about music, albums, bands, artists, whatever I can get our hands on. Go Beyond Your Radio with us, a real music appreciation channel, and see you tomorrow for Album Review Saturday. I'm not going to tell you the albums because there's some weird things, and I'd rather you drop by and just find out. And there's actually one that's revered as being one of those touted albums of the year. No. I'm finally going to be belligerent on an album for a change. But that's until tomorrow. So happy listening.